The year was 1937. Howard Hughes was busy breaking records. The Golden Gate Bridge opened to traffic for the first time, and Amelia Earhart attempts to become the first woman to fly around the world. Well, also in the same year, on September 6th, the Trans-Canada Airlines had their inaugural flight in this plane behind me, the Lockheed 10A Electra. Trans-Canada Airlines would later become Air Canada, and to commemorate its 80th anniversary, has decided to do a cross-country tour of this flying piece of history, starting right here where the first flight departed from Vancouver, British Columbia, and finishing in Halifax, Nova Scotia.
It's a Lockheed 10A Electra. This one was built in 1937. The Lockheed company built 149 of these aircraft starting in 1934, and they finished in 1941. It's the first all-metal aircraft that was built by Lockheed, and the first twin-engine built by Lockheed. So they were used for light transport, starting up routes for a lot of early airlines in the United States and in Canada in the 1930s. So it's a lot of work. You're flying all the time. There's no autopilot, as I said. And you feel every little bump and current, and you're always adjusting and to keep it straight and level. For me, I'm an aviation history nut, and I love old airplanes, and I love tail dragger airplanes, which is a tail dragger. Most modern aircraft have a nose wheel, so different handling characteristics on the ground than this. It takes a lot of work to keep this thing straight and narrow, especially on the ground. It's a pleasure to fly, and it's work. It's lots of work, but it's enjoyable work. So.
What do you fly normally, and how long have you been flying this antique?
Well, I fly the Boeing 767 at Air Canada at the main line. And how long have I been flying this? I've been flying this for about 3 weeks now.
You're the rookie.
I am the rookie, yes. And I'm very, very proud to be the rookie.
Yeah, like what qualifications do you need to fly this?
Well, you have to have quite a bit of tail dragger time, an appreciation for old airplanes, and other than that, a desire. Flying an 80-year-old aircraft is very nostalgic. Brings back a lot of, not memories as such, but it's you think about it a lot. Flying an 80-year-old airplane. It doesn't feel like an 80-year-old airplane. It's very well maintained. It flies wonderfully. It's bumpy. It's noisy. It has that wonderful smell of old airplane, which if you're a pilot or an aviation enthusiast, you really know what we're talking about when you do that. But it's a real treat. It's a real pleasure.
Great being part of the Air Canada history. One of the very first airplanes that Air Canada has flown and still maintained, and we're still flying it today. The engines are made by Pratt & Whitney. They're R985 radials. 985 stands for cubic inches. It makes 450 horsepower. These are the junior engines, and the reason why they're called the juniors is the first radial engine that Pratt & Whitney built was the 1340, and then they built a smaller one, and they called this the Junior. So that's how that evolved. It's no mistaking R985 doing run-up or takeoff or cruising by. It's just music.
Totally different experience. The 777 is so much heavier and so much faster and bigger and so much more comfortable in the cockpit, and this is very small. The seats don't adjust, the rudder pedals don't adjust, there's no autopilot. We can even open the windows in flight and get some air blowing in our faces. That's our air conditioning.
So it brings out a lot of emotion then?
Yes, it does. Yeah, a lot of emotion. You think when you fly this airplane of, when you're flying it, what it was like in 1937, what they went through without the modern instruments, without all of the modern everything. Yeah.
Back in 37, what do you think the passengers felt back then? It was a big deal.
Well, it was a big deal. I think much different than it was today. To get on an airplane and travel, it was, you dressed for it. You looked forward to it. It was very, very much a privilege, I think, to get on an airplane and fly. And back then, I think that's what it was. You got on this airplane. It was new. Nobody really knew about it. And you'd fly from, Vancouver to Victoria or Vancouver to Calgary, Toronto, and I think it was romantic. It had a romance about it, which was nice. Which is actually a good way to put it. This airplane is like going back in time.
There's only 2 of these in the world flying, so there's not a lot of people you can rely on to ask questions for. There's one of these being rebuilt in New Zealand, and I've been in contact with them quite a bit, and they're asking me lots of questions on the airplane, so I guess I'm getting to be one of the more knowledgeable people on this type of airplane.
Time for the first leg in the cross-country tour, and that's Vancouver to Calgary. The crew goes over their flight plan, checking the changing weather, and also visibility is becoming a factor because of the forest fire smoke. It's been decided that they can make it to Calgary direct in just over 3 hours. Alternate airports along the way have been mapped out, and a turnaround option is worked into the plan. You don't see this too often on an Air Canada commercial flight. The pilots are manually turning the props to evenly distribute oil that may have settled while sitting. What a sight to see when this 10A Electra rolls out of the hangar right beside the largest of the fleet, the Boeing 777. The waiting is finally over, and I get to hear those two big radial engines fire up.
Passenger briefing completed. Landing gear selected. Down. Ordnance lights.
All off for now.
Throttles
Cracked.
Mixtures rich.
Full rich.
Pitch full fine. Carb heat cold.
Cold and cold.
Radios are off. Generator and unnecessary switches off.
All off.
Master switch on. Check bolts. And rotating beacon on.
It's on.
Okay, start the right. Check brakes.
Brakes are set.
Engine fire extinguisher.
Centered.
Fuel selectors are on the mains. Boost pump.
The right side is on.
And ignition push.
Pushed.
Prime the engine. Count 9 blades and ignition on.
Clear!
I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but I'm actually going to fly on this first leg. How's this to get the nostalgic juices going? We are taxiing in Air Canada's oldest aircraft, past their latest and greatest, newest one, the 787 Dreamliner. It's been decided that we should go over to Landmark Aviation and top up the tanks if we're not going to stop along the way for fuel. After fueling, we're off.
Aztec, yeah. Hey, run up. Okay. We already did the dead mag check. Yep. Temperatures and pressures are normal. We're all on the green. Mixture. Full rich. Carb heat. Full cold. Fuel selector on the mains. 1500 RPM. Check the generator's charge.
Uh-oh, on run-up, it's noticed that the generator gauge is not showing the proper readings. John and Jerry try a few things, but the results are the same.
Feathering pumps. Check operating, so push and then pull out.
It's back to Landmark to have a closer look. Remember, this is an 80-year-old aircraft, and it's not as easy as just hooking up a computer to find out what's wrong. It's hands-on troubleshooting. Safety is the utmost priority, and nothing is left to chance, so after additional tests are done and the readings are the same, it's decided that they would have to order in a part and postpone the flight till the next day or until the plane is back in tip-top order. Disappointed? Believe it or not at all. Sure, we didn't get it in the air today, but I was still able to feel what it's like to ride in the Electra. I could feel the vibrations, I could smell it. I was genuinely like a wide-eyed kid watching his idols all day. It was a real treat to be able to experience the professionalism the dedication and passion that Jerry, John, and George have not just for this plane, but for aviation in general. It sure makes me feel a lot safer knowing the people flying and maintaining the aircraft that I fly in so frequently. In the last 80 years, air travel sure has changed a lot, and some of that romance in the sky has been lost. It's been replaced with busy airports, missed connections, and even some lost baggage. So the next time you have one of those bad travel days, here's a little exercise that I'm going to share with you, and I know it works for me. So this is what you do. You take a whole bunch of deep breaths and repeat, and then think about what you're doing, because it doesn't matter if you're hopping into an 80-year-old aircraft like the Lockheed behind me or the latest 787 Dreamliner from Boeing. You're flying. You can actually get up in the morning, hop on a plane, and be anywhere in the world in the same day. Maybe not with the Electra, but that would be quite the adventure. But the magic of flight is still there. Happy 80th Air Canada. Here's to another 80 more. Thanks for watching and safe travels. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up, and if you want to see more everyday reviews, hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.